tuning in to the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, we're continuing our 2026 NFL Draft Prospect coverage with a focus on the wide receivers. This group certainly has day one talent to spare, and there will likely be some surprise day one picks as teams try to draft and nab their future number one wide receiver. We'll rank and preview this rather deep class next. Now, here's your Sports Peninsula team.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is David Kaczynski Drew. I'm joined by Coach Andy Shield, and we're talking about the NFL Draft prospects this week. We're going to focus on the wide receivers for this show, Coach, and always a very intriguing group. It's one of the sexy picks in any NFL draft, and this is a deep class, is it not?
Well, yeah, this wide receiver is the 1970s, 80s, and 90s running back. That is the skill position that gets the majority of the touches these days. And yes, they become major weapons for offenses. They're, most of the good teams have multiple wide receivers that can make plays for them. So it's a position group of need. Certainly every year, and it's a position group that yields and bears a lot of fruit out of college football too, Drew, with the amount of spread offenses and air raid offenses out there these days, where you'll have your 4 and 5 wide receiver sets, every snap on offense. These schools are producing a ton of wide receiver talent, and this year is no different.
Yeah, and as a Detroit Lions fan, and we're fans, obviously, I don't see the Lions looking at wide receiver in this draft at all. They're 4 deep already on paper in the room. With obviously with St. Brown, Jamison Williams, and Tesla, who they drafted last year, and then the young man they signed out of
Dortch.
Yeah, Greg Dortch, nice player, knows the offense because he knows his coordinator, and then Tom Kennedy still on the roster. This is not a position that you take. This is not a year the Lions draft a wide receiver. UDFA, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's where they'll probably be going with it. Yeah, we aren't going to see, we with our draft slots, a wide receiver take. I'd be shocked. I mean, if that were the case, like you said, Drew, they will bring in for the sake of competition, and who knows, it will, define the future Tom Kennedy or something like that. A long-term, franchise guy. That is there when you need him. They could find that player later in the draft process, like you said, through the undrafted free agent signings. But yeah, this is not so much a Lions position as it is more of a look at some of the guys that are going to resurface. And you know what? We did things last year, and I remember us talking, and we kind of hemmed and hawed on Tetairoa McMillan, and we had him very high on our list, and what he could be and what the concerns were, and he proved people wrong, and he was the NFC Rookie of the Year, I believe.
Yeah, so good year.
Yeah, so I mean, who's not to say that there's another one of these Rookie of the Year type players in this group that we're about ready to talk about?
Yeah, and this is an intriguing group too, in the sense that, and before we get into the top 20 here, it's a super deep group. But this class, and there's a couple other groups, there's some day one possible number one in the group talent, but there's injury history. And there's a couple prospects, one very much in particular, wide receiver. It's like, he's number one talent-wise, but man, that's a checkered medical past. And, we're going to jump into that right now, Coach. Let's look at that top 20. Run us down, if you would.
At number 20, we have Jacoby Lane out of USC. At 19 is Dejon Stribling out of Ole Miss. At 18 is Brennan Thompson from Miss State. And at 17 is Ted Hurst from Georgia State. Over at 16 is Deion Burks out of Oklahoma. At 15 is Bryce Lance out of North Dakota State. Trey Lance's younger brother. You're going to be featuring him a little bit later as one of our dark horse candidates. At 14, Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. 13, Skylar Bell out of UConn. At 12, one of those national champions, Elijah Surratt out of Indiana. And at 11 is another one of our dark horses, Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. That's Cliff Branch's nephew, the great Oakland Raider. So we'll be talking a little bit more about Zachariah here shortly. And at 10, Antonio Williams from Clemson. At 9, Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. At 8, Chris Bell from Louisville. At 7 is Chris Brazell, the second out of Tennessee, another one of our dark horse candidates. And at 6 is KC Concepcion from Texas A&M. And our top 5, which we will be featuring here in a little bit more depth, is Denzel Boston from Washington. Drew, I wanted to say Denzel Washington because it's Denzel from Washington.
I hear you.
Myself there. Denzel Boston from Washington at 5. Number 4, Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana, another national champion Hoosier. Number 3, Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. We'll be looking at him a little bit more in depth. And at 2, Makai Lemon from USC. And in at number 1, our featured guy, Drew, and I'll take us right into it, is Carnell Tate from The Ohio State University. He is a 6'2", 192-pound junior. He is from Chicago, went to Marist High School. So that's one of the big ones there in the city of Chicago, Catholic school there, and one of their big programs in the state of Illinois. Didn't finish there, though. He finished at IMG. So this is one of those national prospect, national product, national recruits. Carnell Tate has been in the national spotlight for quite some time. He started 26 of his 39 games for the Buckeyes, and this is wide receiver U, Drew. Yeah. This is a place that just churns out the NFL's top wide receiver talent. They just have them. And he has started the bulk of his games, so we know this is a fine player. He was a national champion in 2024. He was on that team and played a prominent role. Was all Big Ten and All-American this past season for the Buckeyes. 103 receptions, 1,600-plus yards, and 13 TDs the last 2 years. So he's been very productive, and he was a very productive member of that national championship team. This past season, 51 receptions, 875 yards, 9 TDs on 66 targets in 11 games. So he was the secondary featured player because they got Jeremiah Smith, who's probably the best player in college sports, or in college football at least. For a career, 121 receptions, over 1,800 yards, 14 TDs on 161 targets in 39 games. Carnell Tate produced at Ohio State amid a group of individuals that are supremely and sublimely talented. His numbers are actually stronger in some cases, Drew. Carnell Tate is the Sports Peninsula Podcast #1 wide receiver.
He's a stud. I mean, physically, he's what you want. I mean, he's not super big, but he's not small. He's an average size receiver, but talent wise, unreal talent off the board. Coach, what do you like about him?
He's classically trained Buckeye wide receiver. He's been at it. I mean, look at the names. Abuka.
Smith and Jigba.
Jackson Smith and Jigba. Marvin Harrison Jr. Olave. We can keep going. Michael Thomas.
Garrett Wilson.
We can just keep going and on and on.
That's the last 3 years.
Yeah. He's the latest one. We have Jeremiah Smith, who is going to be the #1 pick in the draft next year. That's going to happen. We can already call who the 2027 number. If he is not the #1 pick, I really want to know who it is, because that's the best player in college football. So I mean, he's of this brethren. He is of this group. He's a great route runner. They're all nuanced. You get a 75% target rate. I mean, they're when the ball is snapped and it's a pass play, 75% of the time, that's where the ball is going towards. It's the direction. That's the way the offense was, given this past year. So this is a wide receiver 1 candidate, Drew. Wherever he goes, 94% catch rate. Whenever it's above 9.0 or 90%, that's an elite number. That shows good hands. Real aggressive at the point of the catch, and he fights in contested areas and pulls down his fair share of 50-50 balls. This isn't a 50-50 ball, but you would call this a contested area where the Grambling defender is kind of right on top of him in phase. He's pulling this ball in, as you can see. Yeah. He makes plays at full speed. This is a play right here. This frozen in time picture against Grambling. He's making this play in stride at full speed. So big play guy, explosive play guy, a full speed player. Zone coverage didn't work very well against Carnell Tate. He's a guy that can get underneath and just run across the entire formation defensively and carve it and make plays. He's got a great catch radius. That's why he's really in this slot. You know, made a lot of big unexpected plays, but balls that were not necessarily the most well thrown or in areas where only the wide receiver would catch it. Carnell Tate would catch it. So he's that type of player, Drew. This is just the next Buckeye wide receiver. Great.
And I agree 100%, Coach. We know I think everyone and their mother pretty much knows Fernando Mendoza is going to be the number one pick to the Raiders at quarterback. But Carnell Tate has all the talent you need to be the next guy off the board in this draft. It's going to be based on specific need for the teams in the top 5/top 10. So what is it that he needs to work on, Coach, to maybe solidify that number 2 spot if it's there?
A lot of the same things that another Buckeye wide receiver great had to work on, and it's starting to really come together, and that's Jamison Williams. And because he's yet another great Ohio State wide receiver. Yes, he finished at Alabama, but he was a Buckeye. He's got to continue to develop his route plans. You know, those got to get crisper. You know, at the NFL level, the timing's going to be that much tighter in the NFL. So, you know, his predictability and those kinds of things, you know, that they'll catch up to that. You know, just like a good pitcher, just like Kevin McGonigal's got to make adjustments at the plate for the Tigers. He's a sublime hitter, but there's a book on him already, and there's gonna be a book on Carnell Tate too. And he's just gonna have to be able to respond to that, and you do so by diversifying your route techniques and that kind of thing. He missed a little time. He missed a little time with a calf injury. You don't like hearing like muscle-related injuries, Drew. Those can tend to be a little chronic, at least in and around a greater period of time than you would think just the recovery period is. So, you know, that is something they're going to definitely have to keep an eye on. Maybe it affects them, maybe it doesn't affect them at all, but that is something that did kind of hinder him at times and get him off the field. He's lean, 6'2", 192-pounder, thin-legged kid. You know, he's got a leaner frame, so he's got to get a little bit of lower mass. I mean, we are talking about a wide receiver. We're not talking about an offensive lineman. So I mean, he doesn't need to like necessarily bulk up where we're saying there, but some requisite strength is important for him. You know, he's not a burner. You know, he's kind of a comeback route specialist where he sets up downfield and comes back to the ball. Sets up downfield and comes back to the ball. It's there. It's a technique. You know, the Lions do a lot of it. You know, a lot of teams do. So he's got to kind of show that that's not what he's going to just be as a specialist, a comeback route specialist in the NFL. He can play, you know, a good long time being that guy, but that's the difference between him being an elite wide receiver 1 and a Marvin Jones type, Nate Burleson type wide receiver, which there's no shaking, you know, that's nothing to shake your head at. But if we're talking ceiling, you know, potential, I guess that's kind of what we're looking at. He can get pressed pretty good and you know get kind of shaken up by the rugged press man covers. So I mean that's definitely going to happen. That happens to all the elite rookie wide receivers.
Happened to Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, they did. I mean, and it's an adjustment. So I mean, he's just going to need to physically develop to reach his ceiling. You know, he's just got to continue to do those things. But and there's no indication that he won't, Drew. And you know, Carnell Tate is a guy that I would think. You know, works within and around his ceiling. If he doesn't reach it, he's going to be in and around it.
Safe pick. I mean, safe and potentially elite pick. A top 10 talent, top 5 talent. Yeah, his ceiling puts him right in that top 5 conversation easily. His floor, like you said, I mean, if we're talking about at the very least, Carnell Tate's going to be a real solid version of what Nate Burleson and guys like that were a Golden Tate number 2 guy. That's a safe pick. That's not a top 5 pick necessarily, but I believe you're right. He's closer to his ceiling than his floor. He's going to be a number 1. He's going to have Pro Bowl like numbers, but he also could be amongst the top 5 in the NFL. He's a super talent. It's going to be fun to see where he ends up. Hopefully not in the NFC North. We'll put it that way. Our number 2 prospect on the board, coach, is Makai Lemon, wide receiver out of USC, the University of Southern California, the 5'11", 192-pound junior prospect. He's a 5-star prospect out of Los Alamitos, California. He went to UA High School, Army All-American.
He's an Army All-American high school gamer.
Yeah, that's high school All-American game participant. Started 18 of 33 games at USC. He won the Biletnikoff Award last year for best wide receiver in college football, and he was also an All-American. He's a 2-time All-Big Ten player. Last year, 79 catches for 1,156 yards, 13 touchdowns in 12 games, averaging just over 1 touchdown a game. For his career, 136 catches, 2,008 yards, 16 total touchdowns. He had 2 on the ground, and he had 183 targets in 33 games. Coach, this is a super talented wide receiver out of the now Big Ten USC Trojans.
Another place that has, always produced good wide receiver talent. That is a big feature part of their offense. Makai Lemon has been that, especially the last couple of years. Lincoln Riley is an air raid coach. They play that kind of style of football in Los Angeles, in that end of Los Angeles at least. And Makai Lemon has been the benefactor of a lot of that. He was a big blue blood recruit. He played in the Under Armour high school All-American game. So he's one of these guys, again, a national spotlight player, not dissimilar to Carnell Tate, David. This is another high level, high caliber wide receiver.
Yeah, and there's a lot to like here. Check out that catch rate, 97.5% catch rate. That's the highest I've seen since we've been doing this, Coach. Honestly, that's the highest catch rate amongst the top 20 guys we've been checking out through the years. It's the 9th season now we've been doing this. That's outstanding. He's an elite ball tracker. He's got good catch radius. He's got a 74.9% target rate as well. So he's definitely the focal point, and he has been at USC. He's a good fighter and separator and cut and press coverage. No better hands in the draft. Case in point, look at that catch rate, look at that target rate. Best hands in the draft. He's a battler in contested catch areas. He's a phenomenal route runner. He's a zone killer too. He can dice him up just like Tate, and blocking's a priority to him. That can't be said enough. So Makai Lemon is very much an elite prospect, Coach. Talk about his traits.
They produced one a few years ago that kind of slid down the pack a little bit and wound up in at the very beginning of day 3, and he wound up with the Lions. His name is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a very, very similar player, very similar size. Amon-Ra might be just a touch bigger, just a touch. Very similar in their size, very similar play style. They bring a lot of the same traits to the table. They block. They're physical. They play football. They don't just catch footballs. They actually play the game. Their alignment versatile and can be moved around the formation. And they're high volume receivers. They target rate of near about 75%. So very, very similar. He kind of was the modern day version of Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Trojans.
Very much so. And Coach, we talk about. We view Makai Lemon as a top 10 talent. There's some concerns though. His frame, he's 5'11" versus the 6'2" Tate. He's 5'11". I believe St. Brown's 5'11" as well. So again, Chris Olave is not a big guy, but these receivers, you can make it happen. He can make it happen outside or in the slot. He's a very good player, but at the same time, that's one of the reasons why he's just below Tate on our board, quite frankly. Tate's got a little bit better size, just 3 inches in height's a big deal. So he's not a dynamic athlete. He's a very good athlete, but not dynamic. He's skilled, is much more than athletically talented. So but Makai Lemon's a guy that figures out to accentuate his positives and work with that. So that's a concern, but it's just the way he's physically built. But he doesn't provide a lot of burst at the line of scrimmage, and he's too dependent on hand fighting and secondary moves. So he's going to have to work on that. Size matchups could slow him down on the outside. He's going to be facing a lot of corners that are going to be like 6'2" now. Corners are getting bigger, just like receivers. So he's going to have to, like you said, with every NFL prospect coming out as a receiver, they're going to have to deal with that, the line of scrimmage. can his catch radius and ability to separate translate to the NFL? That's the biggest question, but it's one you would have with anyone. Can their talents translate from college to NFL? I firmly believe Mekhi Lemons can. I firmly believe, Coach, he's a top 10 prospect, and I believe he's going to go top 10. And when I say that, the Lions aren't in the market for a receiver, but we want, as Lions fans, more receivers going ahead of Detroit to bring down the other prospects that the Lions are interested in. And Mekhi Lemon will be one of those, I firmly believe.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I keep bringing up Amon Ra. That's what people are looking at. They want the next Amon Ra. I mean, Amon Ra, St. Brown, and a redraft would have been drafted in the top 10, top 15 certainly. So, that's what people are seeing with Mekhi Lemon, or they see a version of, and that's what they're hoping for. So, in that. In the spirit of that, I mean, we are talking about a first-round draft choice. There's no injury risks here. There's all production. You're going to get a really good football player. You're not getting an elite athlete. So the translation needs to occur. And some of that's going to have to be cultivated through coaching, through scheme, through technique, and further development of the player. And that's what you're going to have to get out of Mekhi Lemon to yield the kind of production you want out of a high-end pick like that. But certainly, he's one of these players that, and I would agree with you. Yeah, I mean, it pushes down those fine offensive tackle and edge rusher prospects a little further towards pick number 17 when guys like Mekhi Lemon fit before that. But so let's hope that he does.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're going to come up to our number 3 prospect, Coach, and I know you'll introduce him, but this is one of those guys I think are very polarized in the draft due to the injury history. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, this is one that's got a little leeway, I think, in where he winds up falling, Drew. The number 3 prospect is Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, 6'2", 203-pound junior from down in Allen, Texas. Plays in a beautiful high school football stadium down there. It's a huge high school stadium, pretty impressive place. He's impressive, Drew. Gets out on the bench and puts up 225 26 times. That's pretty impressive for a wide receiver. You don't see too many guys on the outside or lining up in the slot that can bench press 2.25 26 times. Transferred from Colorado, so he played for Coach Prime for a brief period of time. 22 receptions, 470 yards, and 4 TDs in those 9 games with the Buffaloes as a true freshman. So he got on the field right away and played for Colorado. He's a 2-time All-Big 12 player for the Sun Devils at Arizona State and was an All-American in 2024. So last year, not this past season, he was an All-American at ASU. For the career, 158 receptions, 2,282 yards, 23 total TDs, 22 of them via receiving, 200-plus targets in 33 games. So a high-volume target for the Sun Devils and was an emerging high-volume target for the Buffaloes when he played there, Drew.
Yeah, and physically checks the boxes. He's right there with Tate. He's got a little more weight on him, actually. Statistically, athletically, checks all the boxes. And Coach, I'm really excited to talk about what Jordan Tyson brings to the table and what we like about him.
Well, he comes from a tremendously athletic family. A lot of different players played football, basketball, track, a bunch of different athletes in Jordan Tyson's family. So he comes from a very athletic family, has a very, very athletic pedigree. He's another 90 plus or a 9 plus or a 90% plus catch rate player at 92.4. So he got excellent hands. He is, unequivocally the strongest receiver in the draft physically. He's the physically strongest player. So, I mean, take that as you will. I mean, it's impressive most in a weight room. It does have to translate into things on a football field. But as a blocker, is his ability to be able to get off press coverage, his ability to separate physically, to be able to fight and pull down balls in contested areas, it should yield good results that way. Because he's excellent at the catch point. He's really, really, really tough in contested areas. Runs phenomenal routes. He really sells and fakes routes to go into another one. He's got a great route plan. Really diversified. Hines Ward was his position coach in college, and Hines Ward of his era is kind of symbolic and really remembered for being an elite blocker and a great run blocker. And so that's a big part of what Hines Ward teaches, his wide receivers, and Jordan Tyson shows that. He is a very, very good blocker. Of the three players we've spoken of so far, he is the best. And we're talking about a very, very tough kid in Lemon that blocks well too. Alignment versatile, can go all around a formation. He's a great tracker on the deep ball, which we know is a field changer in the NFL, and a play that's used to really flip the script a lot is the deep ball. He's a good deep ball player. Real impressive catch radius, Dave. Jordan Tyson possesses, probably skills and a body that could be the top receiver in the group. He really does. It's him staying on the field is our greatest concern. That's our greatest concern with Jordan Tyson. Can he stay on a field? Because when he's on it, he's impactful.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that we're skill-wise, like you said, he's right with Tate and Lemon. His statistics, even though he's missed a lot of time, I mean, his career statistics are outstanding. So it really boils down to, what are we talking about with these injuries, Coach? What are we looking at?
In 2022, he had a knee injury that sidelined him. In 2024, he broke his collarbone. That got him off the field for an extended period of time. And he was an All-American in 2024.
Yeah.
And this past year, he was kind of nagged with a hamstring injury. And damn that injury, because a hamstring is one of those injuries that's kind of like the groin injury of hockey. It just doesn't get away from a football player. When a football player has a hamstring issue, it generally is an issue, and it limits them. So I mean, that to me is a major red flag. Okay, a knee injury can be surgically repaired. It's that puts some high miles on the player, but those can be repaired. Broken collarbone, that can heal and be completely repaired, and those are injuries that can be sustained and you can come back from. Hamstrings can nag.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised about the collarbone a little bit. It's strong, and things happen. Injuries happen. I remember Charles Rogers in Detroit broke his twice, and a lot of it was centered around his really lack of upper body strength and the way he would jam into the ground. That's how it would happen. Tyson doesn't have that issue. He's a very strong guy, so that one, it doesn't worry me as much. But I agree with you. The hamstring's definitely the concern.
Yeah, he went to three. Yeah, and it's just, can he stay on a field? He went to three different high schools and two different colleges. He 5 transfers between high school and college. To me, I'm looking at that not as I see that, and that goes on the minus side of the ledger. I don't think that kind of why. Well, why are we always picking up and packing our bags and going to another opportunity? What are we leaving for? Those would be some questions I would have for Jordan Tyson. He has a under a 65% target rate, which could speak to being on the field with other players too. But it also tells me that at times Jordan Tyson kind of just is out there. He is not impacting. There's about a third of the time he's not impacting, or more than a third of the time he's not impacting out there. Now, if he's got 5 key blocks in the run game and he has 2 receptions for 14 yards that game, he still contributed big time. But that being said, he is a wide receiver, and his target rate's a little bit lower than some of the other guys that we've talked about. He does not possess a fast gear per se. He has a 5th gear. It just doesn't look the same as some of the other guys. He takes a while to kind of get going. So As far as his deep balls, it's got to be a set up deep route. I mean, he is not going to do something organically and wind up 35 yards downfield. You know, you're going to have to really commit to having him getting down there if you want him downfield. He's got to be able to beat the press of the line of scrimmage with his hands. I mean, he should be able to. He's shown to do it, but I mean, that's just got to be his calling card, is being able to get off press man coverage. That you can't press Jordan Tyson very well. He's just too strong. He's going to get off of it a lot of the time. That'll keep him on the field. That will get Jordan Tyson his place at the table. But more than anything, can he hold up physically, Drew? And yeah, you set it up at the beginning of the episode here. We're going to talk about guys with some injury pasts. This was the player that we're featuring first that has that. I am concerned. For me, I would not, and again, we aren't looking at wide receiver at 17. If we were, this would not be one of them I would look at, not because Jordan Tyson's not a great football player, and you watch him break our hearts next year as I say this, but I just feel we've been bitten by the injury bug enough. And this is just certainly a player that has bitten by it quite a bit in his career. And it's bound to come back. It's just bound to come back. I see Jordan Tyson as a guy that's going to be on the injury report at times, and probably every given year. And that is something that he's going to have to work through.
Yeah, and I know he's a top 10 talent. He still could be taken in the top 10. It is not. I would say with Jordan Tyson, there's a 10% chance of him going in the top 10 still, in spite of the injury history, because all of the strengths and all of the accolades and the measurables are there. 80% chance I see him actually going between 10 and 20. Really between 10 and 16. I think there's a good chance he wouldn't even be on the board at 17. Again, not that Detroit's going to look at that way, but I see. But there's a 10% chance he could slip out of day one because of that injury history. There is a chance if it's there, because if I'm looking at, I wouldn't want to take a chance on any player if I have a pick in the top 20. But if I have my next picks in the 40 to 50 range and I still need a receiver, absolutely I'm going to look. Most teams would. But I agree with you as a Lions fan, and what the Lions have gone through with this, when there's big red flags on the medical report in college, it typically is carried over in the NFL. And, the laundry list of names is there. I mean, there's some still on the roster, right? I mean, Onwuzurike definitely comes to mind. As a second-round pick who had an issue. He's had issues ever since. Back's a little different. I get it. I know people are probably going to say, well, hamstring's not a big deal. Well, it depends. It's an enigma. And like your coach said, it's going to come back. When? We don't know. The severity of it, we don't know really. It could be a deep tear. It could be a slight tear. But at the same time, it's a finicky injury, and it's such a critical muscle for anybody that's going to rely on speed. So, talent-wise, he's top 10, but where he's going to go, I don't know. He could be. I mean, we saw Metcalf fall out of day one, DK Metcalf, for different reasons, and he's he's an elite receiver. But there's things that happen, and so I'm really curious to see who's going to take the flyer on Jordan Tyson. And I hope it's not in the north. Like you said, it could come back to bite us. So we'll see what happens. Our number 4 prospect, Omar Cooper Jr., out of the national champion Indiana University. The Hoosiers winning the national title last year, of course. Omar Cooper Jr., a big part of that. The 6-foot, 199-pound junior. He's a 4-star Indianapolis native. He ran a 4.42 40. He played in 41 games with 19 starts for the Hoosiers. And again, of course, a part of that national championship team. He was all Big Ten and All-American last year. Last season, 69 catches, 937 yards, and 14 touchdowns, 13 of them receiving. He had 9 on 91 targets in 16 games. So quite a productive season. For his career, 115 catches, 1,798 yards, 24 touchdowns, 22 of those receiving. He had 171 targets in 42 games. Coach Omar Cooper Jr. has had a very productive collegiate career.
Yeah, this particular catch right here that you're seeing, and I'm not sure it would have played a massive factor had they ended up losing this. Had Omar Cooper not made this catch. This is a 4th down catch to win the game versus Penn State at Penn State. I'm not so sure they wouldn't have been on the same trajectory and not been national champions still with this if they would have lost this game, because they certainly still would have went to the playoff. But this is a catch that won a game for him. Omar Cooper has been a guy that they were not afraid to target in the clutch moments of the season this past year, which was very much like the Michigan basketball season was, the Indiana football season was for the Hoosier football team. Just kind of a charmed life through and through throughout the year. He made big catch after big catch. So this is a player that, you look at 19 starts in 41 games. It's not like, Omar Cooper Jr. was gifted the keys of Bloomington the moment he stepped on campus. He's worked his way in there, but he is certainly a high-level athlete in a big conference, and we see these guys usually play in the NFL for a few years.
Yeah, and here's why too, Coach. 95.8% catch rate. So again, another an outstanding catch rate, one of the higher we've seen, and that's why this draft class is really special in my mind this year, even compared to some others. But he's a big-time contested area winner. So if it's a 50-50 ball, Omar Cooper's generally going to pull it down. Clutch target. He's a clutch target. He gets open. He makes catches in game-turning moments, as Coach illustrated in the Penn State game. He makes big plays. He shows up at big moments. Another zone savant. He just gets open. He understands zone, and that's kind of a trait with a lot of these guys. That they can sniff it out, and they're able to get themselves open in zone. He's physical, and he's a capable blocker. Another great thing, he's a yak player. He's very dangerous after the catch. So that's a feather in Omar Cooper's hat for sure. And all around, every down skill with good athletic ability. Coach, he's got a lot of everything, and he's just really, really good at everything.
Yeah, I mean, these are guys that start in the NFL. Omar Cooper possesses all of those things, whether he's a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2, or if you're a three set, team where you have 3 receivers, on the team almost at all times. This is a type of player that can be out there for that. He is very, very well-rounded guy, very well-rounded player, a very sculpted, crafted player, above having some, some physical talent. So yeah, Omar Cooper does possess the type of traits that wind up becoming a starter in the NFL for sure.
Coach, I'm going to talk about now what our concerns are. I'd like you to touch on this. There's concerns about coachability and commitment concerns here. Touch on that with Omar Cooper.
Well, there are times where we can all relate to this in our own way. I mean, we all have we work, so we know what it's like to work with people. And, there are certain people that, when we approach them about doing something differently or needing them to do something differently or needing for things to happen differently, everyone responds a little differently.
Sure.
There are some that respond defensively. There are some that make excuses. There are some that blend into the woodwork. And there are some that tackle those things head on and take them head on and persevere. Omar Cooper at times has been taken off the field. And it's, I don't know why he was taken off the field necessarily, but I know there were times where, he's entered the portal and come back. He's, just, is he a guy that's going to feel sorry for himself? And I don't like speaking of these things because these are things that, how do you know this? It's not something that I saw on film very, very much. Mm-hmm. It's things that I've read and researching that kind of have come up. So, I mean, we don't speak to them very often. If somebody's been arrested for a crime or something like that, we'll always post that on here. Or, if they have a terrible injury history, we'll post that on here. I try to avoid the coachability things because that's usually needs to be seen with your own eyes. But when it comes up enough times, I wonder if that's going to play into things.
Yeah,
I'm sure, but there are a lot of teams that did a lot of interviewing of Omar Cooper.
exactly. And it's just, that's something you got to vet out. And quite frankly, yeah, you're right. It applies to everybody. We all change, especially in the modern world, right? Change is inevitable. And quite frankly, without change, you don't get better. And it's a matter of understanding, is Omar Cooper the kind of guy that's going to embrace that, change and do the things we need him to do? Yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire. So you do have to gauge that, and that's certainly that's a legitimate question. But yeah, of course we're not in the locker room, we're not in the practice field, so we don't see it firsthand. But yeah, something with that. If you're gonna put it this way, you better damn well ask that question of everybody. If you're gonna possibly take a day one flyer on somebody, I want to know, are you committed? Are you on board? So I think that's very fair, especially if you're coming off the field for a little more often than maybe you should.
He's getting pulled. I mean, there's tons of clips. You can see him getting pulled, and you can see him arguing with coaches, and you can see penalties, unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Things just emotional mistakes.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's again very very legitimate issues there. So certainly I'll be vetted out in the interview process, but he's got solid but not top end athletic talent. But again, he does everything really well. But yeah, there's no, like, you're not saying, oh, he's a 4.340 guy. He's not putting 26 reps up on the bench for 225. But he does a lot. He does everything very well. He's not just necessarily a jack of all trades either. He's pretty damn talented. His best sample size is really only last season. So again, and that was with Mendoza throwing to him. So we can see he produces on a good team with an elite quarterback. No question about that. Can he make it happen with the backup quarterback on a team that's struggling on the come up? We're going to find out. He's very reliant on athleticism and physical ability. So again, that's great. But now in the NFL, to not have really an elite trait, you're going to have to figure it out and get that football IQ's got to get churning. So, that's a question there as well. Can he figure that out? I think he can, the way he's able to tear apart zones. But again, he can't just be reliant on athleticism and physical ability. There's too many athletes in the NFL. He needs technical refinement and route running in order to maximize those opportunities. And then will the inconsistency and immaturity resurface when he faces adversity in the NFL? You hope not, Coach, but there's a chance it could. Excuse me. But at the end of the day, I think the floor for Omar Cooper is very high. This is a guy that's going to start likely as wide receiver 2, but that's a starter on any team that has a need. And I really like his chances. But I would say I like him at number 4 on our list too, because of those potential issues with the maturity, what have you.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's going to be some coaches and some franchises that are just not going to want to take the risk to try to get to know Omar Cooper. They just don't feel like they have time for it. And there's we're human beings. No one is perfect here. We all kind of strive to create these, cardboard cutout, kind of cookie molded versions of people we want around ourselves. And we do this in society as well as we do this in sports and in the workplace and that kind of thing. And unfortunately, it just doesn't quite work that way. People are people, and they're going to be who they're going to be. And Omar Cooper is one of those human beings. That said, he's not entitled to a long-term career in the NFL if he can't make that happen for himself. So, I don't want to make too much about Omar Cooper's, dust-ups that he's had while he's been at Indiana and those kinds of things with coaches and his perceived attitude. Again, I am calling those things to his attention because I think they're real in the play of sports, and I think they can limit you. It can certainly limit potential. And those are some things that Omar Cooper is just going to have to be able to control and work on if he's going to maximize his potential, which is, if he could, it's a starting caliber wide receiver in the NFL.
And one that, quite frankly, as Lions fans, we're hoping goes before 17. There's a chance that happens. I think he's very likely day one, though, in spite of these issues. And I think there's definitely going to be a team. I know there's teams below Detroit, like a Philly, things like that. Although they just got Dontavian Wicks a day ago. We're recording here on the 11th of April. So That may not be as big of a need now for a team like that. So that's where situations might come up where a Cooper could slide a little more, but the talent's there for day one. Who we got at number 5, Coach?
We have Denzel Boston, wide receiver from Washington, big 6'4", 212-pound junior. So we're talking one of the bigger guys here, one of these big outside receivers, kind of the classically sized wide receivers that we have seen the latter part of the 90s on. This has been kind of the body type that has been the most popular for a long time. From South Hill, Washington, so he's a Washington native. Started 25 out of his 42 games that he's played for the Huskies. So this is a one-school player, two-time All-Big Ten selection. 39 games played as a Huskies punt returner. So this is a skill. This is a special teams skill player as well. So this is a guy that brings a skill trait to the table that is going to be something that he hopes to bring to the table in the NFL. In 2024, he had 63 receptions, 834 yards, 9 TDs on 98 targets. This past season, 62 receptions, 881 yards, 11 TDs on 95 targets. So extremely consistent performer, which is a benchmark. It shows that he is not a one-year player, that his developmental track is definitely trending to a higher volume and higher level. 8.5 yards per punt return in his career, and has 1 punt return touchdown to his credit. So Drew, Denzel Boston is a player of the 5 receivers that we've talked about so far, is a guy that brings to the table some elite punt returner traits.
Yes, the special teams, and to be 6'4" to do that too is very impressive, quite frankly. You don't often you'll see guys like Khalif Raymond, like 5'10", 5'9" guys that are, lightning quick, a Mel Gray type like that, those kind of, but 6'4", that's impressive. So that'll help him certainly. Love his size too. Love his size. Love the consistency. I just looking at that, it's like, oh my gosh, like they're carbon copy seasons. So yeah. He's a real impressive guy, Coach. What do we like about him?
That frame. You kind of hit on it, Drew. He's a big, long target, and he's a wide target. I mean, 6'4", 212, that's Herman Moore type size. This is a big player. You can just see right there in this clip, him going down the sideline against Illinois. He's a tall, big player. He's a yak playmaker. He's a yards after catch guy. Very tough to tackle. Big, strong, long, fast, tough to tackle. 96.4% catch rate. I think we've talked about a guy, the lowest one we've talked about was about 92, I think, as far as the catch rate goes, as far as, with these guys. Another guy that just catches the football. When the ball's thrown to him within his radius, he's catching it. He's got great burst and acceleration in his routes. So this is a guy that can get separation real easy that way. He's a good run blocker. He blocks. He's long and levery and a good perimeter run blocker. Guys like that are built for the home run. They're built for the home run. They're home run hitters. You throw the football down the field to these guys, and also he's got that frame and box out ability to be a great red zone target. So Denzel Boston, with the excellent hands, tough in the contested areas. He's a legit starting outside wide receiver prospect. Drew, and in my estimation, I like him better than Tyson, and I surely like him better than Omar Cooper Jr. I think Denzel Boston is a guy that is somebody that's I think a little bit more of a can't miss than those guys.
I would agree. He's clearly the safer pick of the 3. He's the bigger receiver. He's one of the biggest that we've talked about. There's a lot, and he's one of those guys. I think on draft day we'll likely see him go between 10 and 15. I don't see him slipping out of day one. No way. There's just too much there. But he does have some things to work on, Coach. What are those?
Well, from what I saw, he invites contact, and you just don't want to be getting into that in the NFL. It's just how you get concussions. It's just how you get shoulders. It's just how you get hurt. And ask Mike Evans what it's like to invite contact.
A big guy too.
It ended his season basically last year. He came back, but He did that happened at the game at Ford Field, and he wasn't the same again. You just can't be doing that. Not a ton of speed, not a dynamic athlete for a guy that is a punt returner and a high volume receiver. Again, we are not talking about like Jameson Williams level explosion. Are there receivers that have that kind of cuttiness and ability? Yes, well, they're out here. Well, there's guys that have that kind of ability, but of the receiving type prospects we've talked about, Drew, I think we talked about a couple of a couple of tight ends that possess greater vertical stretchability with their athleticism than the wide receivers we talked about. And that's with Sadiq and Eli Stowers. Again, Denzel Boston is a deep route guy without deep route speed. So, I mean, is it gonna translate? That's what we need to be able to see. He always seems to be in a contested situation, which tells you he doesn't get the greatest separation. He wasn't. I mean, the Big Ten's the greatest sports conference in college sports these days. It is. There's no doubt. The Big Ten Conference is where it's at. That said, the NFL is a little better than the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something that, was it my eyes or was I seeing something different? He gets quiet at times. He'll drift away. We're talking about 63 receptions, 850 yards. We're not talking about 90 receptions for 1,500 yards.
Good point.
So, I mean, there are times where he kind of drifts or has drifted for the Washington Huskies a little bit. He's got to work on his route running and alignment versatility. He's just got to be a guy that gets moved around the formation a little bit. All receivers do this in the NFL. It's an expectation. It's something that he's going to need to be able to do because he can't just be Denzel Boston and be a producer. He's going to have to do it within the framework of the execution of the scheme. And he's perfectly capable of doing that. It's just something that he's going to have to bring in his development. He's going to need an acclimation period because, like I said, I think his athleticism and translation is going to require some time. But all said and done, I do think Denzel Boston's a pretty quality player. I think he's very similar to an Isaac TeSlaa in regards to his athletic ability. I think he's very, very similar that way. Now last year, we didn't talk about Isaac TeSlaa at all. He was a receiver. He wasn't even in our top 20. So, and in a redraft, if we redid things, maybe we would see it a little bit differently. But does Denzel Boston, and we saw how tough it was for Isaac TeSlaa to get on the field this past year. He didn't get on the field that much.
No.
So, just what is Denzel Boston? Is he a starter this year? And is he going to have 53 catches for 770 yards and 700 yards and 6-7 touchdowns like he did the last couple of years in Washington? Okay. Or is it going to take him a little bit of time? Probably going to take him a little bit of time.
Probably. And depending on how many receiver needy teams there are, he could slip to early day two. But I just can't imagine he's going to slip to day two with all the positives on the plus side and his inherent size. And the fact, I agree. No, he doesn't get separation, which means the speed isn't elite, but he's able to make the contested catches. But again, you don't want that happening all the time, of course. I guess my concern would be with him is if he does get quiet, is it because he's the focal point and getting doubled, or is it because he's just not getting the ball and then he kind of drifts mentally maybe a little bit? I don't know. That's what GMs and coaches are going to have to figure out during the interview process, and I'm sure they already have. But all things being said, that's just, these are just hypothetical questions you got to ask. But I like him as a day one talent, and I'm hoping as a Lions fan he goes ahead. But I could see a team getting enamored with a lightning quick, smaller receiver that could jump ahead of a Denzel Boston on draft day. It happens all the time. But then we brought up Isaac TeSlaa. That's also a third-round pick, I believe, that the Lions traded up to get. So, solid early day two pick here, and huge, quite frankly, 50%, 50-50, whether it goes day one or day two in my mind, Coach. So, lot to like about Denzel Boston. Now we're going to talk about our dark horse candidates. We're going to start with you, Coach. Who do you got?
My first dark horse is Chris Bell. Chris Bell's a wide receiver out of Louisville, 6'2", 222-pounder. This is a big target. I mean, that's running back size. Yazoo City, Mississippi, 4'4", 440. So this is a kid that runs sub 4.5, very, very good clip for the NFL, but at 6'2", 222. He was also ACC this past year for the Cardinals. Started 24 of 47 games for Louisville. He's a 92.1 catch rate guy and a 68.3% target rate guy. So he's above the 2/3 barometer there. So when they're throwing the football, they like to make sure they find Chris Bell. At least they did at Louisville. And that is a place where they do things really, really well on the offensive end. 43 receptions, 737 yards, 4 TDs, and 62 targets in 2024. He progressed to 2025, 72 receptions, 917 yards, and 6 TDs on 106 targets, Dave. He almost doubled his targets. That's what you like to see. That's what you like to see at the college level, Drew, is the development. From one year to the next, the progression. Because typically you don't regress. You go to a level and you stay at it and keep continuing. Chris Bell showed that at a very high level. Those are big numbers. Big, strong frame. He's got the burner speed. He can break away and go. And he does so in the kind of a tight end, running back type body. He's got a strong catch radius for a kid as big as he is. Because he's a new route runner. Dangerous after the catch. Very physical, dynamic athlete as a football player. And, we talked about a lot of our elite prospects not always having some of those elite athletic traits. This is a guy that has them. Well, where can Chris Bell be better? Why is he potentially a day 2 player into day 3 even? Well, he's got to be a better blocker. He's not shown to be a guy that really likes to block in the run game, and that's going to not be something on some offensive coaches like to see in the NFL. High-end physicality can kind of eat him up. You look at this kid, he's 6'2", 222. He's built like Tarzan, but at times kind of has gotten shoved around a little bit on the field. Press man can eat him up. A physical, engaging, block defeater kind of can beat him pretty easily. Not always the most physically engaged player, and he's not as plucky in contested areas. Kind of the hot, tough areas is where Chris Bell has got to kind of show himself a little bit more. So, the physical calling card is something that he's got to answer to at the NFL level. And again, similar to Omar Cooper Jr., I'm not side by side. I haven't been able to see. I'm not a scout where I can see Chris Bell. Personally, I just see what I saw on film, and I could see at times a player whose physicality was not matching that on the field against the Miami Hurricanes and some of the more physical, the Clemson Tigers, and some of the more physical, ACC football film that I watched. So that's what Chris Bell's got to bring, but this is a great body and great athlete, Drew, that is definitely getting drafted because athletes get drafted. If we can craft a football player here, you got one that's going to end up becoming a starter in the NFL.
And I see him going. He could be early round 3. He could be round 2. He could be late day 1 because he's got an AJ Brown / Deebo Samuel type frame, and with that speed. You got to love it. But yeah, the concern would be, is it just that he's trying to be too finesse, or is he taking plays off me? I don't want to speculate on that, but if you can be too finesse and with that physicality, use what the good Lord has given you, use it to your advantage. I mean, 222 pounds and running a 4.4 40, you can get physical with those cornerbacks in the NFL too. And I look forward to seeing him do that again, hopefully not in the NFC North. Who's your second guy, Coach?
Well, my second dark horse is Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. Now, this is a smaller guy. This is more your prototypical kind of the modern RPO underneath route receiver. 5'9", 177 pounders, so a little guy. He's from Vegas. He played at Bishop Gorman High School, so one of these national programs, big football programs. He's the nephew of NFL Hall of Famer Cliff Branch. So the great Oakland and LA Raider. Coach Scarcelli played with him briefly for the Raiders in the middle 80s.
Number 21.
This is his nephew. So, and then, he's a little smaller than Cliff even yet, but a similar player, 4'3", 540. So he's got that burner cross the route, type stuff. 5'9", 177, benches 2 1/4, 20 times. So this kid that's worked in the weight room over at USC and in Athens. He's a transfer out of USC. So he stayed on the West Coast initially, then transferred to Georgia. 2023 All-American and All Pac-12 as a true freshman. He's not a freshman All-American. He was a All-American as a true freshman, as a kick returner and punt returner. So we just talked about Denzel Boston. I think we got another guy here that might be returning some kicks and punts in the NFL. 2025 All-SEC player at Georgia, 97.6% catch rate. He's an underneath receiver that can be a little, and 75.8% target rate. In the RPO world, those numbers, well, does he just get the football all the time? Well, he's a high-volume guy. 159 receptions in his career. On 634 yards, 9 TDs, 94 rushing yards with a rushing TD, 19.3 yard kick return average with a TD there, and a 13.3 punt return average with a TD there. So this is an electric player here, Drew, that at both SC and at Georgia did some things on the football field that were exceptional. One of which was run 26 miles per hour as his clock top football speed.
Wow.
So this is now there are claims that he did this on the field, that he was claimed through through the tracking data that is used at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
The tracking data they use there, that he was clocking the field at 26 miles per hour. It was also said that he did it on a treadmill, which you can kind of cultivate it both ways. But he is blazing fast, and he's alignment and deployment versatile. Now he's not. At 5'9", we're not talking about a guy that's going to be an outside receiver extraordinaire in the NFL. That's just too small. But he's a bullet with the ball. If he can get it, like kind of like a Calvin Austin, like a Tyreek Hill, like a McCole Hardman. Some of these guys that they're high volume players. Hollywood Brown has had years this way. They're absolute bullets across the formation with a football. He's got great hands, and he's an exceptional special team player, and he's getting out of the field, and he's getting drafted likely on day 2, and it's day 2 because of his size, Drew. He's very small, 5'9", 177 pounds, and his catch radius is to him. This is a ball that's got to be delivered to him. You're not putting a ball in an area and having him going to attack it. You've got to get him the football. That's the type of player he is. So is he going to be on the field at all times? Probably not. This is not a player that's going to be on the field, all 4 downs. He's got to really develop and refine as a route runner. It's got to be his calling card. It's got to be what gets him open in across formations. Otherwise, he's just going to be a kick returner. Got to be a better blocker. Again, he's not going to be on the field a lot in running situations, I don't think. So that's not necessarily going to be one of his biggest dings. But size, frame, stamina, endurance, all question marks of Zachariah Branch based off of that size. Just how much can he hang in the NFL? Going to have to prove that, Drew. But boy, do I like him. Where would I have seen and I know you're talking about 2 fine wide receivers too, but of all the receivers we talked about, and we don't need this anymore because we did sign Greg Dortch a couple of weeks ago in free agency. But if the Lions were going to look at a wide receiver, if they were, this would be one of the guys I would have looked at because we needed to replace Khalif Raymond.
Yeah, and
I think we have done that with Greg Dortch.
Exactly. It couldn't send a better coach. Yeah, this is a really good football player. I day two because he's going to contribute right away as well, at least on special teams. I think I think his ceiling for his rookie year, he could be a wide receiver too on a team and start right away. And certainly be he'll be in heavy rotation. He's gonna likely be a kick returner, punt returner for whoever drafts him. So huge value right off the hop. Obviously, the ceiling what you want to see is that he's able to refine the route running, like you said, coach, and stick and stay as a wide receiver too, and possibly have Pro Bowl like statistics for his career. We'll see. I got a couple here, coach, and this young man caught my attention for sure. Chris Brazel, the second out of Tennessee for the Volunteers. He's 6'4", 198 pounds. He's a junior. He's from Midland, Texas. He ran a 4.3740. He's a Tulane transfer. In 2023, he was all AAC and freshman All-American with the Green Wave. And then last season, he was all SEC and All-American with the Vols. A 91.8% catch rate, so sticky hands. 45 catches for 722 yards on 5 touchdowns with 70 targets in 15 games with the Green Wave at Tulane. And then 91 receptions, 1,350 yards on 11 touchdowns with 144 targets in 25 games with the Volunteers in Tennessee. So pretty productive guy. What we like about him, well, he's got an explosive burst out of his stance. I mean, I've been watching him working out, running routes, his cone drill. I mean, this guy, for as tall as he is, and to be right around 200 pounds, he's bendy and he can move. He possesses that long speed to be a deep ball home run hitter. He's a very willing blocker. Gotta like that. He's a fluid moving athletic specimen. He's like a gazelle out there. Honestly, he's fun to watch play football. He's got great agility and he's got a tremendous ceiling. Now here's the thing: he does not offer much after the catch, so he's really kind of a possession type guy. And he can sit and fight hands a little too much and press man. He's going to see a lot more of that in the NFL. So that's something he's got to work on. He's got a long, but he's got a very lean frame. So probably could afford to put on a little more muscle on that frame. Certainly at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage. He's got a surprisingly limited catch radius profile, considering how tall he is, and he does need strength and some polishing to thrive in the NFL. But coach, man, his athletic ability and his ceiling just jumps off the page for me.
Way too much athleticism to go unnoticed. It's not gone unnoticed. I like what I see as a guy of his progression, from the transfer from Tulane to Tennessee. I mean, he went up in stature in regards to competition. He went up in regards to talent and just competitive nature, and he improved. His numbers. So it shows you he's definitely a climber that way. Just look at him. He looks just like a statue. He's like a perfect body specimen. I did see the catches and the immediate takedowns and those kinds of things. How much of that is on Chris Brazel? I don't know. There can be some of it. I did see him get stuck against press man a little bit, and if that's happening at the SEC level, which is the elite, high end football, maybe the best in all of college football, in some people's estimation at least. That's going to happen at the NFL level. So some of those things, yeah, he's got to be free. He's got a lean frame. He's got to get himself up, a good 10 pounds, I would say. He doesn't want to lose any athletic profile either. Just some of those things that need to, you got to become a great run blocker and be a comeback route extraordinaire. If you can do those things, Chris Brazel's going to play a long time in the NFL.
He really intrigues me. I think his skill set and his ceiling, I think, makes him a pretty solid day two guy. Possibly
100%.
Possibly a higher day two guy. We'll see where it works out. My other one here is out of North Dakota State University, Bryce Lance, the 6'3", 204-pound senior from Marshall, Minnesota, the brother of Trey Lance. And yeah, North Dakota State. Coach, I'll be honest with you, not only do I really like his athleticism, but I know, and recent history's told us, at least North Dakota State, when they do produce high-end talent, they tend to be pretty productive in the NFL. He ran a 4.34 40. He has a 41.5-inch vertical leap, and his broad jump was 11.1. Two-time All-MBFC player, and he was an All-American last year in 2025. A 26.2% catch rate and a 74.7% target rate. The man is busy, and he's the focal point of the offense. Obviously, at a smaller school, you're going to be when you're that talented, but he makes it happen anyways. For his career, he had 127 catches for 2,139 yards and 25 touchdowns on 170 targets in 57 games. He started 29 of those. And how was he able to do this? Well, he's an elite athlete. That the vertical, the 40, the catch rate, the man is just a very elite athlete. Got absolute blazing deep ball speed. He's got a serious catch radius too, folks, and he's got excellent hands, big physical frame. He's a specimen, and you can see there that length and that ability to stretch. He can do it. What does he need to work on? Well, he's got to polish up on as a route runner. And I know we've talked about that a lot, Coach, but typically when your competition level isn't quite there, you don't have to be as nuanced, because you're going to beat a lot of your guys just from your speed and your athletic ability. So he's got to make sure he's bringing that to the table and keeps working on that in the NFL. He's a modest blocker at best. Now, was he asked to do it as much at North Dakota State? Probably not, but at the same time, that's a box you got to check in the NFL. I mean, we even got JMO in Detroit. He's not the most. He's an extremely willing blocker, and he's a pretty effective one, but he's not the most technical blocker out there. I mean, St. Brown is a far more technical blocker, but JMO gets his hands dirty and gets his nose in it all the time. We need that from Bryce Lance too. He's got to improve as a route running blocker, as I said, and can he make the jump? I mean, that's always the question. Yeah, you did it against D2 talent, but can you get up to the NFL? But again, when you get a guy out of North Dakota State who's checking a lot of boxes athletically like this, Coach, there's usually where smoke there's fire in a good way.
Yeah, he just just oozes athleticism, and comes from that athletic family. His brother was one of the top picks in the draft. He's proven to be a backup quarterback in the NFL. That happens with first round draft picks in the NFL. Was Trey Lance a little bit of a victim of competition size? Well, at the FC level, quarterback level, there could be an argument to be said about that. Carson Wentz is not become a longtime starter either. However, Gray Zabel's an awful doggone good football player for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
And some of these other North Dakota State football players that we have seen go out most recently. And Bryce Lance, just no one kept up with him very well at the FCS level. I mean, he was going to beat you. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to see a little bit of a narrowing of that gap, when he does, see people close in and defend him a little bit differently. But I just see a guy that can really be a deep ball threat in the NFL. And I think people are going to see that as well. Bryce Lance is going to land somewhere pretty quickly on day 2, I think.
Yeah, I was saying round 3. I was thinking round 3 for sure. They had to be that athletic and be available round 3. Yeah, I like him there. Coach, overall, sum up this prospect group before we call it a day.
I think there's been better wide receiver groups in the past. I don't think this is the greatest wide receiver group, in NFL draft history. I do think there's some good complementary pieces. I think Carnell Tate's going to be somebody's wide receiver 2 rather quickly. He could emerge and be a wide receiver 1. I think, a lot of it depends on, how does a Jordan Tyson, translate? Does Omar Cooper Jr. find a place? Does, a guy like a Zachariah Branch or a player like that find his place? Or one of these players that we didn't even speak of becomes a perennial all-pro player. There's always a likelihood of that because this is a wide receiver's game.
Yeah, and for that reason, I'm as a Lions fan, I'm thinking Lemon and Tate will go ahead, and there likely will be a third and possibly a fourth that goes ahead of 17. But I'm thinking probably maybe 3. Who that third player is, I don't know. It could be Boston who jumps up in there, or it could be a guy, not necessarily Branch, but a guy of that stature who is definitely more ready to be a wide receiver 2 right away, could jump up in there. I think of like a Matthew Golden that Green Bay took out of Texas, that kind of size, 5'10-ish, 5'11-ish, but lightning quick. So, yeah, I see that happening too. Hey, folks, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the video. And don't forget to subscribe to that channel. We got content coming every week. All the draft prospect classes we're covering up to the first round, where we'll do a mock draft of that probably about 2 or 3 days before actual draft, which is the 24th on Thursday. So we look forward to sharing that with everybody. Don't forget to comment on the videos, man. We'd like to hear your thoughts on the prospects. Do you agree with us or disagree? It's cool, but let us know what you think. For Coach Andy Scheel, I'm Drew. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can also follow us on X as well as Facebook so you don't miss an episode. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one, Sports Peninsula Podcast.